Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream until your dream come true. Welcome back to StillerBros at the Movies, where today I don't know how to intro this because, this isn't a franchise. No, this is an original movie, folks. Today, we are going to be seeing The Creator. So, Gareth Edwards is still a thing, apparently. He has had a noticeable absence over the last 7 years after Rogue One came out to somewhat middling reactions. However, we are on still what is probably the vast majority saying we love that movie. But the thing is, Gareth Edwards kind of disappeared after that. Like, he's still around, obviously, because he made this. But so far his filmography is still just 4 movies. His original movie Monsters, his Godzilla movie, which was his first big blockbuster, Rogue One, and now The Creator. So, what's The Creator about? Well, get this. It's a riff on Lone Wolf and Cub, in which a battle-hardened badass has to take care of a magical child, taking him across a wasteland where he has to fight both human and subhuman monsters in order to get his magical child to safety. And by the way, did I happen to mention that the hardened badass learns to love again and get through his mysterious and dark past? Only this time Pedro Pascal was probably busy shooting one of the other ones that he's in, so they just had Denzel's kid doing it. Yes. So this time around, we have John with a pretty stacked cast with John David Washington, Gemma Chan, Ken Watanabe, and Allison Janney, just to name a few. And it's rather an interesting thing. Well, it's not like a wholly original thing, like we said. It's the very Lone Wolf and Cub situation. It's The Mandalorian. It's The Last of Us. I feel like we're already kind of belittling the whole movie. We're trying not to. We're just being snarky. It's just the fact that this is a story that has been around a lot, particularly in the last few years, where it feels like we're getting a lot of hardened badasses like Wolverine, The Mandalorian, Joel from The Last of Us, who are taking their mysterious surrogate kid across wastelands to fighting monsters of both the human and non-human variety in order to keep their kids safe. But obviously, execution is what ultimately takes the idea to new heights, and Gareth Edwards has obviously taken a long time between his last movie and this one, through mostly no fault of his own, just through studio mergers and a pandemic and a lot of other stuff. But when it comes down to it, the Creator is basically Gareth Edwards' latest baby. There's a lot of his hallmarks in there, like the fact that because Gareth Edwards is an indie director first, he basically is like, hey, let's shoot it on a consumer-grade Sony camera, and let's shoot practically as much as possible. They pretty much said straight up that they didn't build as many sets as most sci-fi movies. They just kind of went to locations that looked weirdly dystopian enough. Yeah. And ultimately, it is just kind of an original sci-fi premise, which we don't get a lot of anymore. But Gareth Edwards, it's his first movie he has written since the original Monsters, and he is co-writing it with the Rogue One writer Chris Waits, the writer of American Pie, and the director of Twilight New Moon. I'm not saying that to criticize the man's work. I am merely stating that this is his career trajectory. Yes. And it just looks like a very deep, dark sci-fi movie. And something that kind of came up when we saw the trailer for at Haunting in Venice was that if you told us Neil Blomkamp was making a movie this year, and you showed us this trailer, we would have assumed that this was the one and not Gran Turismo. Yes. But this is what we've got. Also, the weirdest thing about this is it's a movie about AI, so therefore it's one of those movies that's oddly prescient, though not when they were making it. It became strangely timely, especially when the trailer dropped a couple days after the writer's strike began. And one of the things in the trailer that said is the AI built weapons and dropped bombs on us.
And obviously AI has been a big sticking point with Hollywood's strikes over this year, and especially with the fact that AI is still going to exist in some particular way, just because if you read the agreement that WGA took earlier this week, which the end of the writer's strike is great. Let's see if we can end SAG quick. But AI is still something that is on the table. Maybe they'll try to get it off when they renegotiate in 3 years.
But onto what I was saying, this movie's score was actually kind of fitting into that, where apparently Gareth Edwards was planning on working with a firm that uses AI music to create, and he was planning on emulating Hans Zimmer's style with the music that they were producing. But then he just got Hans Zimmer to do it instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of the thing about it. If it seems like we're going on a lot of tangents and stumbling a lot, it's mostly because we really don't know a lot about this movie other than the vague idea of the plot. The fact that Gareth Edwards made it, and it's basically one of those, let's use sci-fi as a bigger idea to tell this story of just like this.
Which is basically just the sci-fi genre, as a whole, especially in the last 50 years.
And we don't know a lot about it other than, I mean, this isn't even a case of people making a lot of jokes about it, other than the fact that, weirdly, they made an epic trailered up version of Dream On by Aerosmith, basically the movie's theme song. But there's not a lot to this, and that's one of the things about it. As a non-franchise movie, this is kind of a non-starter for some studios, but the fact that a studio actually said yes to this and is distributing it to major markets shows that at least some people are still willing to gamble on original ideas that aren't just comedies or drama or Oscar-baity dramas.
Especially when you look at what 20th Century Studios has been putting out the last couple of years, where a lot of their original ideas just end up getting dumped onto streaming.
Yeah.
Most of they usually are saved. Ever since the Disney acquisition and the pandemic, they have pretty much saved a lot of their original stuff for putting up on Hulu for streaming, and then just put their bigger franchise stuff out in theaters.
Like, did you guys even know that they made 2 John Cena, Lil Rel Howery buddy movies that they put out on Hulu? They made 2 of those.
Yeah. And
they just dumped them onto Hulu.
They didn't even do that much advertising for them.
And somehow they made a sequel based on little to no advertising. But on that, yeah, The Creator is an original idea for the most part. It's a familiar idea with an original world slapped over the top of it to make it kind of its own thing.
Yes, and the scope of it really does seem like it is something worth checking out. And obviously, we as fans of the sci-fi genre are kind of excited to see this on just the level of it's an original sci-fi movie.
So will this be as epic as Rogue One, or will this be as bloated and pretentious as Godzilla? Only time will tell.
We will find out after the jump.
So, it was alright, I guess?
It was pretty good. I think what really cemented it was the good performances.
Yeah. For the most part, I think it has a lot of the same high points and low points as Rogue One, in the sense that the visuals are pretty good, the acting is pretty good, but the story and characters are a little...
It leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah. Like,
it's just something I can't put my finger on. It made me not really think this was great.
I wasn't drawn in a lot. It feels like this story focused a lot on world building and the interesting visuals more than it focused on the heart of the story, which I think is something that is a weakness. It is something that a lot of the other stories we compared it to in the preconceptions portion of this video really do right, where it's like, let's establish the characters and their relationship and everything like that.
There is a lot of stuff where the characters are not established in the right way, or not exactly established in a way that makes it work. That being said, there is a lot of really great performances in this movie. Standing out definitely is Madeline Voiles, who plays the role of Alfie. She is just an insanely talented child actor.
And like with a lot of these, he's a good chunk of her performance is without actually saying a word. So that's actually helps. So maybe one day she'll get her Daphne Keane, Bella Ramsey, big showy acting thing where she can actually do something big.
Yes.
And John David Washington is very much his father's son in a lot of ways. Like in certain shots, you can kind of see Denzel's facial structure on him and everything like that. So a lot of that does have his charisma rubbing off on him.
He also has talent to match because he has to do because he has a lot of heavy emotional scenes in this movie, and he has to carry a lot of it. So,
but once again, I think kind of the weakness is the fact that a lot of these that other than the two main characters, Joshua and Alfie, every other character and plot point in this movie is just kind of left with something to be desired. Like Allison Janney is basically like a secondary antagonist to the main plot, but at a certain point the movie just kind of forgets about her for like a good half an hour, 40 minutes.
Especially since the main antagonist is in the movie, briefly disappears for most of the movie and then comes back again for the ending, and it spends a lot of time building up Allison Janney as the villain.
Where it kind of also has this whole thing where Gemma Chan is there as John David Washington's wife, and we kind of have to go chasing after her, but also maybe there's something else about her and all this other stuff, and
then Ken Watanabe, it's your standard Ken Watanabe character where he's here to support, and he's gonna do damn good at supporting. And
even if he never gets at any point in this movie a line nearly as iconic as "Let them fight."
Yeah.
And the visuals are pretty good for standard sci-fi stuff. This is.
ILM ain't gonna phone it in for sci-fi.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the visual effects, it very much looks like the kind of movie Neil Blomkamp would have been making about 10 years ago if he was making this.
Especially since a lot of the robots kind of look like mechanical prawns from District 9.
But I mean, this is a movie that has a lot going for it, but also has a lot where it's like you could have done a little further. Like Sturgill Simpson is in there, country singer Sturgill Simpson, and he's kind of there, but you kind of get the feeling that his character has this growth off screen that allowed him to become this sort of different character, but he never really gets the chance to grow.
There's a lot of things in this movie that kind of leave you wanting more. Like maybe there's a lot of things that are more implied than anything. Like there's moments in here that maybe make you think that there's a possibility that certain elements of this would have made would have been more interesting if this was a mini-series than it was a movie.
Yeah, because a mini-series can build and build and build, and it can take time to build relationships and establish characters and stuff like that. But this had to fill 2 hours. They couldn't go much longer than that. Otherwise, well, then you're gonna get a bunch of people like, I went to see a popcorn movie, not some 3-hour pretentious bore.
And it's not, and you can say,
which is not to say that every 3-hour movie is a pretentious bore. Just pointing out that this is supposed to be a standard sci-fi movie, and they built it off the back of a lot of lore that needs to be built, and a lot of characters that need to be established, and everything like that.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, but ultimately I liked a lot of it, and it does come out pretty good in the long run. I did not hate this. I thought it was solid, but I don't think it got everywhere it needed to be when it came down to it. I think it was
mostly good. It was competently put together and everything like that. I just think that the characters needed a little more time to work it out. The story and characters needed space, and once again, that's really something that I have to say about Rogue One too, because Rogue One also had that problem where up until Andor, I could not even remember Diego Luna's name.
Yeah, and this is probably not going to get, and this movie's not going to get, not really likely to get a sequel. It's Gareth Edwards has really said it's a kind of a one and done, and
looking at the way that the movie goes from beginning to end, I kind of believe that that's a one and done. I don't see where any conceivable way that a sequel can go somewhere, unless they want to do the Blade Runner 2049 thing, where in like 24 years someone's like, hey, I think I got an idea of where to take a sequel.
Like, if people have ideas of where to take it, then that's fine, but really, this is a one and done, and I would really like to see more one and done stuff, just as much as I like, because I like franchises, but I would really like to see more one and done movies.
I mean, this is a case where the movie is very much clearly meant to be just one thing, and it tries that one thing, and it almost gets there. It almost reaches the finish line, but I just think that certain elements worked and certain elements didn't work as well.
Yeah, I'm
not saying don't watch it. I'm not saying skip this one. I'm just saying,
if anything, just see it just for the fact that we need more original stuff out there, and if this does well, then maybe, just maybe, we'll get more original stuff.
But it's just a case of, this is a sci-fi movie where I thought that a lot of it kind of was okay, but it's just kind of solid.
Yeah,
it's fine. Gareth Edwards is a decent enough director. I've seen only 2 of his movies, and I thought both were pretty. And I thought one was pretty okay, and the other one was good. Was really, really good.
Yeah.
I really don't know what else to say. It's just that kind of movie where it takes big swings. It's a little heavy-handed here and there. Like at points, they literally do have a character quote back John David Washington's dehumanizing language back to him.
And maybe it just kind of misses the mark on some of the social commentary it's trying to get at.
Like, it's very much a narrative where certain people choose to other certain people. Like, you can see the racism allegory, the trans allegory, whatever allegory you want to attach about someone being othered, you've got it in there.
Yeah. But all in all, I liked this movie. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what my opinion will be on it after a little while if I think about it more.
Personally, I think it's going to leave my head pretty quickly. I'm not angry or mad or sad or disappointed for this movie. It's just a case of, I don't think it's really going to stick in my head as much as a lot of other movies of this caliber would. It's really not a thinker sci-fi movie. It is real. There's not a lot of stuff that will make you think of, that it makes you think about later on. It's just very cut and paste by the numbers. Everything it's worth saying is said right there. There's no small stuff that you're gonna have to think about, that you're gonna make any epiphanies about later. Like I said, it's very clear what this movie is trying to say, and it's very clear. And when it says it, it can be somewhere between. It can be somewhere between, oh, I see what you're doing here, and wow, that was really heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Better than Chappie, though.
Yeah, by a lot.
So, I think that's it.
Yep.
And so, The Creator, it's fine. I wouldn't call it bad. Wouldn't call it the greatest original sci-fi movie that we've seen in years.
But it's really good, and it deserves a chance.
So, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, leave in the comments what you may have thought of The Creator. Do you agree with us, disagree with us? What do you think? Do you hate it more than we did? What do you think? In the comments below. And don't forget to tune in next time when, oh my god, are we a team? Bye.